Traditionally, longevity has been kind of more of a sci-fi term of like, I'm going to freeze my body and my brain and I want to live forever. And, for the most part, women are like, no, thank you.
How long do you ladies want to live? I'm kind of inspired by some of the folks who are like, maybe like somewhere between 80 and 90 if you can go out on a high.
I think about this all the time. I don't want to be a burden on anybody else.
So if you're 50 or older, you're actually on a pretty good trajectory for living at least as long as we have in the past, if not probably longer. If you're 40 or younger, the trajectory is looking worse. People born since the 1990s, when these new rules came into play, have really been born into a C15 deficient world.
This is Second Opinion. I'm Christina Farr.
I'm Zenooz.
And I'm Luba Greenwood.
Welcome to the pod, where each week we navigate what's really going on in healthcare through strikingly candid conversations with the entrepreneurs and investors leading the charge.
Thanks for joining us. Let's dive in.
Hi, everybody. Happy Friday, or at least it's Friday for us here at the Second Opinion podcast. I am very excited about our next guest, Steph Venn-Watson, who is a scientist by training and also a CEO of a company called Seraphina Therapeutics. She's going to chat with us about women's health, longevity, some of our favorite topics. And I've got my co-host with me, Zenooz. Hi, Ash. Good to see you again. And of course, I'm Chrissy.
Hi, Chrissy. Hi, Ash. It's wonderful to be here.
So let's dive right in here, ladies. I would love to hear from you, Steph. This is a burning question that's been on my mind now for months. And that is why the longevity space seems to be populated by influencers who are, for the most part, men. There are so many male longevity influencers. And I can't think of, if you said name one woman who's well known in this category, I would really struggle. So why is this space? Especially given women are the main household decision makers. We are the ones that are so naturally engaged in our health. Tell me why there is this discrepancy.
Yeah, great question. And I have been learning things along this whole journey myself in this space. And Chrissy, what's been really interesting is, because it just had a book come out called A Longevity Nutrient. And so learning a lot about use of the word longevity and what it means. And I think, traditionally longevity has been kind of more of a sci-fi term of like, I'm going to freeze my body and my brain and I'm going to be brought back to, I want to live forever. I'm going to, cheat death. And, for the most part, women are like, no, thank you. Like, I don't like longevity. And I'm hearing from so many women, longevity doesn't really resonate that version of longevity, because it's like, I don't want to live forever, because I'm thinking about, am I going to be lonely, or am I going to have illness for a longer period of time? And that's not my goal. What we are hearing from most people, including now inclusive of women, right, is that I want to live as healthy as possible for as long as possible. And as long as I have my health, I'm good. So let's talk about that versus, trying to figure out how to biohack my way to 300.
Okay, but quick question before we get into some of the health stuff. How long do you ladies want to live? Like, I'm just going to put you both on the spot. I think about this sometimes just in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. I'm like, how long do I want my lifespan to be? And I think I'm kind of inspired by some of the folks who are like, maybe like somewhere between like 80 and 90, like somewhere in that range, if you can go out on a high. And I don't know quite yet what that looks like, but I'm with you. I do not want to live until 300. I want a high quality life, and then I want to go out swinging. How do you ladies feel?
Oh my God, I think about this all the time. So I have a very strong family history of dementia. So I would love to make it to 85, given how old my children are and where I think their kids will be, just so I could see the next generation of family grow. As long as I have my mind and my body functional. I don't want to be a burden on anybody else, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ash. And I wouldn't mind breaking that 100 year milestone, as long as, again, aligned with both of you. Like, I have to be healthy. I can't be bedridden or, and like you said, physically or mentally, declining and putting a burden, my biggest fear, putting a burden on my family, right? And the people in my life. And I don't want to do that. And so as long as that is not the case, and body and mind are in good shape, boy, I would love to break that 100, and then it'd be good. Then I am ready to say farewell.
But I have to ask you, Steph, because I have not, I just today was looking again in anticipation of this chat at lifespan, and it's kind of stayed, for women, it's about 80, and men kind of somewhere in the mid 70s, and it hasn't been getting that much better in the past decade or so, and a lot of that down to chronic conditions and things like cancer. We just sort of have stabilized. So do you have any good news on this topic? I mean, you're in the scientific world, you study this. Like, are you seeing any evidence that maybe for our generation, people in their, 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe 60s, 70s who listen to this podcast, like, is there any good news on the horizon when it comes to extending lifespan?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you good news, and then I'm gonna scare us all a little bit, and then give you good news again. So the good news is now more than ever, we are understanding, we being the scientific world, is better understanding how we age, and all the way down to the cells. And if by understanding the mechanisms that drive aging, that is allowing, the scientific world to focus on ways that we could intervene, like to protect us at the cellular level, to find molecules that have early and broad benefits, right? The issue right now is that a lot of interventions we talk about getting these aging related diseases, and that's not letting us get past, right, reliably past this 80 to 85 year mark, is because we kind of wait until we get the disease. And then there's, a collection of drugs that we can take to try and address each of these diseases. And that is an uphill battle. It's great that we have them for sure. But what's exciting to me is that so much of the effort now for healthy aging and lifespan and longevity is focusing on the earliest stages of what defines how we age. And that these interventions have broad benefits that then slow the rate at which we age and prevent the onset of the chronic diseases that kill us. These are called geroprotectors, which is not a very sexy term. Someone in branding needed to get involved on that word. But geroprotectors are the holy grail of healthy aging. And if we can tap into that, Chrissy and Ash, if we can figure that out, I am confident that we can extend, right, that health span longer. On the downside is that what we're seeing is that people who have been born since the 1990s, who are now in their 30s, we're actually seeing an increase in aging-related diseases at earlier ages. So we're seeing an increase in coronary heart disease, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic, right, which didn't even exist before 1980, now affects 38% of people. Colorectal cancers, are on the rise in this younger demographic. And that's like going against the whole point of longevity. So there's something we need to fix there just so we can live even to our 80s. So, dichotomy, there's a need for a fix on both of these.
Hey everyone, we'll get right back to the conversation after a word from our sponsors. If you're the decision maker at your company, we have great news for you, for your HR department and for your employees. A new and future-forward way to do health benefits is here from Thatch. Not only do your employees get better health benefits with Thatch, but you save an average of $1,620 per employee per year. That's right, you can save over $1,600 per employee per year. Plus, Thatch reduces the time your HR department spends administering benefits. Businesses all over the country love Thatch's breakthrough approach. Rather than a wasteful one-size-fits-all plan, Thatch empowers your employees by letting them customize their own benefits plans. You save money and time while providing your employees with better health benefits, which works better for everyone. Book a demo with Thatch and we'll send you a $100 gift card. Visit thatch.ai/HR to book a demo for your gift card. That's thatch.ai/HR. Today, I'm excited to share a true scientific breakthrough for your long-term health. C15, the first essential fatty acid discovered in 90 years, and it's 3 times better, broader, and safer than omega-3. Dr. Stephanie Venn-Watson discovered C15 while working with the US Navy to improve the health of aging dolphins. Here's why this matters. Many of us are deficient in C15, resulting in weaker cells that make less energy and quit working earlier than they should. This makes us age faster, sleep poorly, and feel sluggish. C15 is a science-backed, vegan-friendly supplement with pure C15 as its only ingredient. It strengthens your cells, improves mitochondrial function, and protects against damaging free radicals, supporting better metabolic, heart, and liver health, plus deeper sleep and healthier hair, skin, and nails. Unlike fish oil supplements that often go bad, Fatty 15 naturally protects against oxidation. It even comes in a beautiful, reusable glass and bamboo jar with eco-friendly refills. Ready to restore your long-term health? Get 15% off your 90-day subscription starter kit at fatty15.com/secondopinion using code secondopinion at checkout.
Okay, couple of questions here. Is the change because of the way we eat? Has that changed from 70s and 80s versus 90s and onward? Do we have more, bad things in our diet, molecules? You hear HHS and RFK Jr. talking about all of the additives in our foods and how foods are produced. Is that a big reason, or is there some other reason? And is there a difference in what you're seeing between men and women, even in the folks that are like born past the 90s? Is this a genetic component or not?
Great questions. And so, Ash, the first is, that's what everyone's looking for. The big question right now in science is so I'm 53. So if you're 50 or older, you're actually on a pretty good trajectory for living at least as long as we have in the past, if not probably longer. If you are 40 or younger, the trajectory is looking worse.
Uh-oh, that's me. 37.
Sorry. Chrissy's like, I'm out of here. So
Chrissy eats really well. I'm not sure she's got this at home. I just bought this, by the way. I just bought it. I thought it was healthy. I'm showing a Raisin Bran box here. Super unhealthy.
So it's on average, Chrissy, right? Obviously you're very healthy. So a big question, because this is so clear, like it is shockingly clear, the more and more studies are coming out. There's a dichotomy between our 50+ year olds and our 40 and younger year olds. And so the big question, Ash, just like you asked, is like, what is the difference? What has changed? Right. And so we have been working over the past 20 years and accidentally stumbled upon one potential explanation for it. And there's no single answer to this question, just FYI, right? So there's no magic bullet. We're just going to have to keep working at it and figure it out. But unexpectedly, like our discovery that can help answer this question, this dichotomy, came from my taking care of Navy dolphins, right? So I'm a veterinary epidemiologist. I was recruited by the Navy 24 years ago, to help improve the health and welfare of older Navy dolphins, which is, hilarious because like I don't know how to swim and I'm terrified of water, but that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But what we learned, so dolphins are long-lived, large-brain mammals. Navy has cared for the sustained population of older bottlenose dolphins for over 60 years. If you look at dolphins in the wild, they live to about 20 years old. Navy dolphins are living into their 40s, 50s. And this year, 2 dolphins are turning 60 years old.
Wow. Grandpa dolphin. Very wise dolphins swimming around.
Well, they could hack their language code, right? They could give us like life lessons.
Apparently we're close to that, by the way. That's another podcast on the next episode.
I love it. So then as we were what we found, this was over a 10-year period. What we found were among these older dolphins, 1 in 3 were developing insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, full suite of changes consistent with Alzheimer's. We just published this 2 weeks ago, and fatty liver disease, and this whole suite of conditions that are all interlinked. 1 in 3 dolphins, which was really interesting because all these dolphins are in the same population. They eat the same, there's no ultra processed foods, there's no trans fats, there's no plastics. So how are 1 in 3 dolphins developing this accelerated aging profile? And when we dug in, we were able to use this advanced technology called metabolomics to look at thousands of molecules present in the dolphin's archived serum, but also their all fish diet. And what we found, we thought omega-3s were going to be the top predictors of the healthiest aging dolphins. And it wasn't. It was this molecule called C15, or pentadecanoic acid. Shockingly, it's a saturated fat that was present in some of their fish, but not all. And dolphins that had the higher levels of C15 were the healthiest aging dolphins. It ends up the same discoveries were being found in humans at the same time. Papers coming out. Now there's multiple meta studies of large studies, right? Tracking tens of thousands of people over a dozen or more years, showing that the higher C15 people have, the lower the risk of developing these heart disease, all that kind of stuff.
Is this something I go to my doctor and say, please draw a C15 marker or level when I get my routine blood test? What is it? And how do we normal population learn more about this and test for this stuff?
Right. So it's increasingly, if you ask your doctor for a fatty acid panel, they will have a fatty acid panel. And then what you need to ask is make sure it includes C15 on it. And if it does, then you can get tested. What's more important that we found is that, you get your baseline labs, and then we'll talk about different ways that you can increase C15 levels, right? And then go get your blood labs taken, repeated 3 to 6 months later. And what we're seeing is, including in randomized placebo-controlled clinical trials, is you get your C15 levels up, and it's clinically relevant changes within 12 weeks, right, of lower liver enzymes. And this is what so when we talk about geroprotectors, a geroprotector has a list of 5 must-haves. It must do things. It must tap into the human longevity pathway. It must, help with regard to hallmarks of aging at the cellular level. It has to show evidence of slowing biological aging. It has to have clinically relevant benefits within months, and then have evidence of preventing the diseases that kill us. In the book, for the longevity nutrient, we walk through over 100 peer-reviewed papers on C15 and how it checks off these boxes. And then on the flip side, if we have low C15, we could accelerate our aging.
Steph, bring us back to the original point, which was that you were seeing under 40. And as an under 40, obviously this is still top of mind. You were seeing this issue in the under 40 that you weren't seeing in the over 50. So how does that relate back to, is there some C15 in the environment and food that maybe under 40s weren't getting? Tell us how this all kind of fits in.
Yeah. Okay. So, Chrissy, are you ready for this? So our source, for humans, our primary source of C15 is dairy fat. And so what has happened since 1977? Congress, right? We think about this. Congress released, if you think of Congress rule, and it was actually specifically 6 congressmen released nutritional guidelines for all Americans. And they said, and at the time, a lot of men were having heart disease or dying from heart disease. And it was real, it was bad. So they released recommendations for all Americans, men, women, and children, shall decrease your intake of all saturated fats. And the best way to do that, is to decrease your intake of butter and whole fat milk. And so 1977 is when, and I remember that because I started getting blue watery milk and I hated my, it was and so when you decrease whole dairy fat, our C15 levels decline. That doubled down, Chrissy, in the 1990s when pediatricians then really pushed it. So when my kid turned 2, when Ben turned 2 years old, I got the piece of paper saying, okay, Ben's 2, it's time to move him off of whole fat milk and onto low fat and non-fat milk. And non-fat milk has no C15 in it. And, and it was just because, so what has happened is that people born since the 1990s, when these new rules came into play, have really been born into a C15 deficient world. And we know that the more C15 mom has, the more she has, the more baby has, the more she has in her milk. And the more C15 that baby gets from mom, the better their body development and growth, the better their cognitive development. And there's one study following kids up to 6 years old showing the better their brain and language skills. So, there's some urgency behind my voice on this just because it's, it looks like we've made a mistake with regard to taking all saturated fats out of our diet.
But if you supplement with C15, are these things reversible in the under 40s?
Yeah, so they are. So that it's reversible. And again, the book is really meant to provide how robust the studies are behind all of this, because it's one thing to hear a CEO of a company that is selling a C15 supplement saying these things. But I have been a public health scientist most of my career, right? And still am. And so the point of all of this is, how do we get it back in our life? So a supplement, the Navy actually funded us to develop a C15 supplement to help address this problem. And so it's meant to be part of the solution, but not all of it, right? So there are lots of things we can do. So the C15 supplement can help reverse. So we understand how C15 works. And then in experimental studies showing that it can, of models of type 2 diabetes, of fatty liver disease, that it can reverse these conditions. Then once we get to, again, these placebo-controlled clinical trials of, people of seeing these benefits. So yes, they can be reversed. And a supplement is meant to be part of the solution. We also want to talk about, we should be talking about the dietary guidelines, right? For children. We know that grass-fed cows that are fed grass have twice as much C15 in the dairy fat than cows that are fed corn. So agricultural practices that we can tap into. And if we eat fiber, we can help microbes in our gut actually make C15. When we exercise, our C15 levels increase. So there are a lot of things we can do to help kind of get, health back on track. Chrissy, getting to your point, let's fix living shorter. let's not decrease our baseline longevity and then build top in. And I'll hold it back because I'm talking a lot.
Okay, Steph, in our last couple of minutes, I'm going to run you through a list of things that I've been hearing through the ether are good for longevity. And I want you to give me a very quick, just hyped enough, underhyped, overhyped. And I'll start you off with C15 because I think I know what you're going to say on that one.
Yeah, underhyped. We must lean in on C15. The world of science is C15. We have to lean in. There's urgency to do so.
Metformin.
Metformin's in the middle. So evidence that metformin does help with longevity. But the studies have been inconsistent. So we bigger studies are needed for longevity.
Regular exercise, let's say 3 to 5 times a week, cardiac exercise that gets you sweating.
Yes. Yes. All studies are there. Must exercise will extend your health span and your lifespan.
Mediterranean diets.
Yes. Strong evidence for Mediterranean diets extending.
Living in mountainous, hilly regions such as Italy or Japan.
Absolutely. Yes. In fact, people living in the hilly, mountainous region of Sardinia, they have 3 times higher C15 levels than the rest of us.
Taking freezing cold plunges.
That's still on the table. I want to see. Want to see more data on the cold plunges. Worth pursuing, but still really early stages.
Tech bros carrying really heavy backpacks on hikes.
It's part of exercise, which is good. I think there are a lot of ways we can get there that are practical and doable and accessible to all. Yeah.
Okay, last one. Brain training apps and games.
Yes, supportive of cognitive health, which again, kind of to kick off, to go back to the beginning of our whole conversation, we want to keep our mental health in good shape, and exercising them including those brain games are helpful.
Amazing. Well, I think I took away so much from this discussion. Next podcast, we will be recording live in Sardinia, where I will have moved to swim with dolphins and learn their enduring secrets. And I just want to say thanks again to Ash Zenooz, my incredible co-host, and Steph Venn-Watson for joining us on the pod. It's been a blast, ladies.
This was so fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Ash and Chrissy. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to Second Opinion. Share it with colleagues and friends and message us to let us know what topics you want to discuss on the podcast. If you want to support the show, the best ways are to leave a review wherever you're listening and make sure you are subscribed. And check out Christina's Second Opinion newsletter on Beehive. A link to subscribe is in the episode description. Second Opinion is part of Turpentine, the podcast network behind Turpentine DC, Age of Miracles, and more shows for experts by experts in tech.
Hey everyone, Eric here. At Turpentine, we're building the first media outlet for tech people by tech people. We're the network behind the show you're listening to right now. We have a slate of hit shows across a range of topics and industries, from our AI and investing cluster of podcasts to shows that drive the conversation in tech with the most interesting thinkers, founders, investors, and influencers, like Econ 102 with Noah Smith. We're launching new shows every week, and we're looking for industry-leading sponsors. If you think that might be you and your company, email me at ericaturpentine.co. That's ERIK at turpentine.co, and let's partner together.